Atlanta News First starts now with breaking news.
Major breaking news here tonight. The biggest presidential election shakeup in modern history. President Joe Biden dropping out of the race.
And now he's backing his vice president for the job. But Democrats have to unite to get her on the ticket and into the White House.
And tonight, a live look there now, where several other Democrats are being brought up for both president and vice president, including a Georgia politician. It is another wild weekend on the road to the White House. President Biden bowing out with just 107 days until the election. I'm Blair Miller.
And I'm Carly Barnett. Now Biden is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as his successor. CBS News reports the decision came last night after a meeting with his immediate campaign team as they worked through any potential paths forward. Once that decision was made, he reportedly made calls to Vice President Harris, his chief of staff and campaign chair.
And tonight, here is a live look at President Biden's home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And at this hour, he is isolating there with COVID-19 and says he plans to address the country later this week.
Let's bring in Karen Caifa now. She is live for us from the White House.
And Karen, as you know, this is a rare move by a sitting president, what's been an unprecedented election.
Absolutely, Blair and Carly, a seismic shift in this U.S. presidential election with, as you mentioned, just a little more than 100 days to go. Vice President Kamala Harris says she will earn and win the Democratic presidential nomination after Biden endorsed her to take the top of the ticket. Now Democrats have a lot to sort through. President Joe Biden Sunday afternoon saying he's dropping out of the race for president, but will remain in office until the end of his term. The president posting a letter on X saying, quote, "I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term."
I think today we should focus on Joe Biden's incredible legacy of service to our nation, his selflessness, his accomplishments in his decades in the Senate.
In a separate post, he went on to say that he is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee.
I fully support Kamala Harris. And in fact, she's been trained by the best. Joe Biden was a vice president himself, and so she probably had the best mentor.
The announcement following weeks of mounting concerns over Biden's stamina and age. Calls for him to depart the race came after a widely criticized debate performance hosted by CNN less than a month ago. The president said he will address the nation later this week. He's currently isolating at his home in Delaware after testing positive for COVID Wednesday, just before he was supposed to speak at an event in Las Vegas. The Republican nominee, former President Donald Trump, responding to the news on Truth Social, saying, quote, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was." It has been decades since a sitting president has decided not to seek re-election and drop out of the race. The last was Lyndon Johnson in 1968. And we understand that President Biden has spent most of his day in Delaware making phone calls to Democratic governors, lawmakers, and members of Congress and announcing and talking about his endorsement of Kamala Harris. As for Harris's close circle, they believe that the next 24 to 48 hours are absolutely crucial for shoring up support among other Democrats and also Democratic donors. Live at the White House, I'm Karen Caifa. Carly and Blair, back to you.
Karen, thank you for your time and for your insight.
I just want to say this on a personal level. I am emotional about the president's decision.
The chairman of the Democratic National Committee spoke just moments after Biden dropped out. And just days ago, the DNC was said to be moving pretty fast to confirm Biden as the nominee, while more Democrats called for him to end the race. Those calls for President Biden to drop out began after the debate here in Atlanta.
Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon is in studio with us tonight. So, Doug, this is coming with about a month now until the Democratic National Convention.
And just days after the Republican National Convention wrapped up, too, where Biden was just about all they talked about there. So this is the latest that a sitting president has left a race. And now those delegates are up for grabs less than a month before they're supposed to go to Chicago to choose a new party nominee.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol.
It all started right here in Atlanta.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence.
With a poor debate performance that weeks later has shaken up the race for president.
Well, it's a black swan event.
Dr. Ben Taylor with Kennesaw State University says delegates already pledged to Joe Biden through primaries and caucuses don't automatically belong to presumptive nominee Vice President Kamala Harris. She still has to earn them.
Now they will be open, the process will be opened up, and they will be able to vote their conscience.
That nominating process will happen at next month's Democratic National Convention. Ahead of that, there could be a series of town halls or meetings with delegates to shore up support for Harris. The VP, who's made half a dozen stops to Georgia since the beginning of the year, may have Republicans on their heels. She's a vastly different candidate than Biden, and the central question of age doesn't work for the GOP anymore.
They will have to go back to the drawing board on that. They will have to go back to the drawing board on their entire strategy in some sense.
This is the latest. The sitting president has dropped out of a race, and with less than 1 month until their convention and only 4 months until the election for Democrats.
Whatever happens has to happen very quickly.
And it could always be somebody else, but Harris may be an appealing replacement for Biden because while the delegates don't automatically belong to her, what does belong to her is the Biden-Harris campaign funds. That is far less of a burden for the party and not have to wade through all that sticky campaign finance procedure. Gosh, back to you.
Doug, thanks so much. And whoever the candidate ends up being, Atlanta News First will have you covered live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Doug will be there with live reports next month.
Vice President Kamala Harris is also speaking out tonight, saying she's happy to have President Joe Biden's support. She released a statement saying in part, quote, "I am honored to have the president's endorsement and my intention is to earn and win this nomination." Harris is the first woman, Black American, and South Asian American to be elected vice president. She has also served as senator and attorney general for the state of California. If Harris wins the Democratic presidential nomination, there are several names already Harris could pick as her running mate, including Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and California Governor Gavin Newsom. We will have much more on Warnock's chances of possibly being picked in just a few minutes.
We just spoke with leaders from both the Democratic and Republican parties here in Georgia. Atlanta News First reporter Blake Devine has their reaction tonight. He joins us now live from Brookhaven. And Blake, Democrats told you they're shocked, but Republicans say they saw this coming.
Blair and Carly, two different reactions from two different sides of the spectrum. You know, here in Atlanta, it seems like just 2 months ago we were here when President Biden was hopping off the tarmac with lots of energy for his upcoming campaign, speaking at the Morehouse College commencement. But that has all shifted. And obviously today we got that big news that he will no longer be running for re-election. So I spoke to some local Georgia Democrats, and a lot of them, they had heard some of the rumblings, but they were still shocked to hear that this happened. Then on the other side of the spectrum, talked to some Republicans, and they had been circling their calendars coming off the Republican National Convention, where they were coming with a lot of energy, hearing from former President Trump and his new running mate, J.D. Vance. They expected this decision to happen within a matter of days or weeks. So two different reactions. Take a listen of what we heard today.
The initial shock of hearing that President Joe Biden is not going to seek re-election. And then once you get past that, knowing that we have a strong place in plan. I have the utmost confidence in Vice President Kamala Harris.
It is a very big dilemma for the Democrat Party right now. It looks like they're in total chaos. Their convention can be contested. They don't have a clear nominee. They don't have a nominee at all.
Now, keep in mind, before this news broke out today, former President Trump was leading in the polls throughout the state of Georgia. However, we spoke to GOP members, and they say they're going to keep on campaigning as if President Trump is down 10% in the polls, no matter who the Democrats ultimately choose as their new leader. Reporting live in Brookhaven, Blake Devine, Atlanta News First.
Blake, thank you. And continuing with our team coverage, Atlanta News First Bridget Spencer is out on Marietta Square speaking with voters about Biden ending his campaign. So, Bridget, what have they told you this evening?
Well, you know what? We're actually getting a mixed as well as a neutral response out here in Marietta Square tonight. Now, this is something that certainly is historic in nature. We've been talking about that all afternoon. Voters are responding in different ways. Many people on both sides of the aisle today have actually told us that they thought that this was the right decision by President Biden. We did speak to one voter who is also a veteran. He says no matter what happens on the Democratic end, he's still going to support his candidate.
Honestly, I'm a Trump supporter, yeah, and I think it's about moral issues, honestly, and I think the Democratic Party is so lost.
I think Biden did a good job, but I think it's good to get some new blood in there.
Yeah, and one big thing on both sides of the aisle that we've been hearing about is unity. They say although there's still some uncertainty about where this election could go, a lot of voters out here today are just hoping that the country can come together. We're live from Marietta Square. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
We now want to turn to First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin, tracking rain this evening. More rounds of storms in the forecast. Cutter, I heard those booms of thunder just a minute ago.
Yeah, within the past 5-10 minutes, showers, now thunderstorms developing inside the perimeter. Still, though, the bulk of the action at 6:39. It's well south of the city of Atlanta. In fact, technically outside of our viewing area, but southern Putnam County over towards Monticello, Forsyth, Georgia, it is still booming. Heaviest of the rain, though, remaining south of Lake St. Clair and Oconee. It is steady rain in Henry County, Clayton County, down into Griffin-Spalding County, back up to Covington, Monroe, and it will rain through this area lightly but steadily for the next maybe hour or two. So if plans take you to the south and east parts of Metro Atlanta, heads up. Light steady rain. Here's that downpour that's booming along the west wall of the perimeter at I-20 and at Ansley Park if it holds together by 6:56. Buckhead proper by maybe 7:06. North Druid Hills if it holds together by 7:14. Already raining in these neighborhoods, but lightly. This small but heavy downpour is on the west side, moving to the north and east. Remember, you can be alerted to rain approaching your neighborhood this evening in the First Alert weather app. Hour by hour, we keep that scattered rain chance going through sunset, gradually drier overnight tonight. But as we've been talking about for days now, we're not done with the rain. Timing out which days will be wettest and maybe the trade-off, some cooler weather, all coming up in the First Alert 7-day forecast.
Cutter, we'll see you then. Let's get back to our breaking news coverage right now. And joining us live is Natalie Brand, who's in Washington, D.C. Natalie, let's talk about the bigger picture here. So what are some of the next steps for this Democratic presidential ticket?
Carly and Blair, good to be with you. Well, we know that Vice President Harris, who, as you probably reported, has the full support and backing of President Biden, has been working the phones all afternoon. Already, we've seen a flurry of statements from Democratic lawmakers, a number of them already endorsing Vice President Harris to be the next Democratic presidential nominee. However, we also know that the DNC has to go through its process. And a spokesman earlier today said that would begin to happen in the coming days, that they would be undertaking a transparent and orderly process to move forward, they say, as a united Democratic Party. Now, it's interesting to note not every single statement that we've seen today has gone as far as to endorse Vice President Harris right away. So there will likely be some sort of debate within the Democratic Party, within the Democratic officials. However, one DNC committee member speaking to CBS News said he does expect a supermajority of delegates to coalesce around Harris. So the fact that we're already kind of seeing that happen today, just hours after this historic announcement by President Biden, signals that she will likely have the party's support to move forward, but they do again have to go through this official process, and it's just kind of, we're waiting to see what happens hour by hour, minute by minute.
A process indeed, what lies ahead. So historic in so many ways. Natalie Brand joining us live from the White House tonight. Thank you so much, Natalie. This is a huge story with serious ramifications for Georgia's role in the 2024 race for the presidency. You can download the free Atlanta News First app right now, where we will keep you up to date with the latest developments, like whether Vice President Harris becomes the actual Democratic nominee.
A lot of Democrats are already throwing their support behind Vice President Harris. A sign now posted outside the residence at the Naval Observatory, who could become her running mate.
Other news tonight, Delta Airlines still struggling to catch up after the international IT outage. The airline's promise to passengers and how you can be compensated if you've dealt with a canceled flight. We want to get back now to the major breaking news in the presidential election. President Joe Biden dropping out of the race after growing pressure within his own party.
He is now endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democratic nomination. Now we're learning Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock could be a possible pick for vice president. Atlanta News First anchor Tori Cooper joining us now in studio. So, Tori, this could have a huge impact on Georgia's role in the presidential election.
It certainly could, Carly. Senator Warnock is one of the many names that have been been put on a short list of possible picks for vice president. He joins other high-profile Democrats such as Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and California Governor Gavin Newsom. We reached out to Senator Warnock, and his team told us he's not available for interviews today. We also, so far, have not seen him post to social media tonight to respond to the news about Harris, but he is expected to make an appearance in Savannah tomorrow. That will be an open press conference where reporters will be able to ask him questions. But look at this. One of the many issues still top of mind for Democrats is whether Vice President Kamala Harris can beat former President Trump if she does become the nominee. A CBS News poll puts a matchup of the two at 48% Harris and 51% former President Donald Trump. That's within the margin of error. This poll was taken among likely voters before the news today. It's still a long road ahead, Blair, Carly, before we know who will be the nominee for the Democratic Party and who they ultimately pick for vice president. We will continue to keep an eye on any statements released by Senator Warnock and any other VP hopefuls. Carly?
Corey, thanks. You can go ahead and download the free Atlanta News First app, where we will keep you up to date with any developments. You can also find statements from state and local politicians there right now.
I'm here now with First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin. Some people getting poured on. We can hear it at our studios in Midtown, but others, which has kind of been an interesting pattern,
it has been.
Avoiding this altogether.
Yeah, annoying for forecasters, great for some of the outdoor plans, and kind of annoying as well for others.
Right.
It's just a little bit of a risk every single day. Why it's a good idea to have the First Alert weather app. Keep those rain and lightning alerts turned on as you are on the go, so that, hey, as these kind of random pop-up showers and thunderstorms get going, you'll be alerted to if they impact your plans here over the next few days. The trend, spotty overnight morning rain. So even during the morning commutes next several days, slight chance of rain. Scattered afternoon showers and storms that linger into the evening, and with more clouds and rain in the forecast, not as hot overall. As Blair mentioned, it was pouring here just a few minutes ago, West Midtown, 14th and McCaslin. Steadier rain, though, still to the south and east of the city of Atlanta. A little downpour within the shield of light rain between Covington and Monroe that is moving generally northward, remaining east of Conyers and Rockdale County. Clark and Oconee County starting to rain. This is building up towards Jefferson, even up into Biggs County. Probably some sprinkles and light rain over the next hour to hour and a half. On the west side of the perimeter, kind of the west wall here, little downpours developing. There's a thunder and lightning detected by First Alert radar. This shower is moving off to the north and to the east. I think especially if you live near the connector and points west, you're almost guaranteed to get a brief bout of heavy rain, but could make it up into the north and east side. Perhaps starting to rain heavier in North Druid Hills by 7:23, Brookhaven by 7:26, and Avondale Estates by 7:29. It's not severe, but thunder, lightning, a few cracks of thunder here, flashes of lightning, brief heavy rain, not the kind that will flood the streets. Nonetheless, it's a damp evening in spots out there, and we'll keep that rain chance elevated, 40% through 9 p.m. Drying out just a bit. There's that isolated overnight early morning chance of showers. We're going to wake up to mild temperatures tomorrow, 73 in town, 69 in Carrollton, 71 in Canton, upper 60s Ellijay, 73 Eatonton, 72 in Athens. Now, it will be muggy, so it may not feel as comfortable as you might think. Upper 60s and lower 70s would, just because it's so humid, it's so muggy outside out the door tomorrow morning. We're going to keep some of that humidity going into the afternoon. High temperatures back in the mid to upper 80s. Notice that rain chance noon 20%, 30% 3 p.m., 40% through the evening hours. I think it might be a little bit of a later start for the showers and thunderstorms tomorrow, but once they get going, we'll have a few that will linger past sunset. High temperature tomorrow, 87 Atlanta. That's about where we were today, just below average. 87 Athens, 88 Eatonton, 83 Gainesville, 79 Ellijay. More clouds and maybe a shower or two up in the mountains tomorrow morning. By 4 p.m., we're going to start to expand that rain chance, but notice it's fairly hit or miss here. A little bit drier than it was today. Rain chance tomorrow about 40%, but as noted, even into tomorrow evening, some showers and thunderstorms roaming the area. So if your kiddos have pool plans tomorrow, you can send them. Just make sure you're keeping an eye on the forecast and be aware best to get the pool time done before maybe 1 to 2 p.m. with scattered showers and storms in the forecast, specifically in the afternoon and early evening hours for most. Tuesday, similar forecast. Wednesday, slightly greater rain chance. Thursday, Friday, still looking like the days with the peak rain chance, but also some dry time in here too. Probably not total washouts, but we'll be eyeing that forecast, passing along updates, and if needed, put on that First Alert weather day right here at Atlanta News First, guys.
Our coverage of the rocky road to the White House continues on ANF Plus tonight. Wherever you stream Atlanta News First, we will have the latest updates for you at the top of each hour.
And Atlanta's mayor with high hopes for landing the Sundance Film Festival, why he believes Atlanta will end up as the final choice.
In the aftermath of a huge IT outage, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport continues tonight to try and recover. Today, there were still more than 1,000 delays at the airport, according to airline tracking website FlightAware. It also had nearly 500 cancellations. All of this after cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike pushed an update on Friday that crippled computer systems all across the world.
Today, Atlanta's mayor says he hopes the minds behind the Sundance Film Festival take the city from one of 6 finalists to the final one.
We are excited about the potential of having Sundance move its location to the city of Atlanta. You know, this is an opportunity for Atlanta to show our independent filmmakers, our independent film festivals, as well as all the other artistic talent that we have.
Representatives from the Film Fest will visit each of the finalist cities in the next few weeks before making that final decision.
A Pike County church is rising from the ashes after a lightning strike is believed to have burned their building to the ground. Even without the building itself, people gathered there this morning at Zebulon United Methodist Church in Pike County to worship together. That church is more than 200 years old, and as you can see, it went up in flames last Wednesday.
You can see our choir loft. Behind that choir loft in that arch, you see a gold cross that is still there. And Thursday morning when we came out, even though the sun rises behind me here, that cross was glimmering in sunlight in the middle of that arch.
Wow. The church plays a huge role in that community with work like providing meals to local children on the weekends. And even with the long journey ahead, the pastor says they plan to rebuild.
And we do have showers and thunderstorms once again roaming the area this afternoon and evening. Estimated time of arrival of the heavier rain, Buckhead 7:17, Brookhaven by 7:26. I do want to let you know if you're watching up in the mountains this evening, we do have some storms just outside of our area. Could creep into our northern mountain communities. We are keeping an eye on those, and we will have a chance of rain the next several days, really through Thursday, Friday, a little drier as we get into next weekend.
Cutter, thank you, and thank you for watching Atlanta News First at 6:30.
You can join us on ANF Plus and Atlanta News First at 11 for our continuing coverage of President Biden's decision.